Now for this first video, I would like to tell you what you could expect from the job in an Inky Dinky Japanese Eikaiwa in Japan. I'll also tell you about, do you need to speak Japanese? And also toward the end, I'll tell you how I've become a minor celebrity around here. Well, okay, very minor. Let's get into it. It seems that the two most popular English teaching gigs in Japan are Eikaiwa jobs and ALT jobs. Eikaiwa is short in Japanese for English conversation schools. And teachers at these schools teach students who come after school or after work for some extra English study or play in the case of kids. ALT stands for Assistant Language Teacher, and ALTs go into Japanese public schools, usually public schools anyway. They go into elementary, could be an elementary school, junior high school, as they call it here, or high school, or maybe a couple of those. And they assist the teachers with their English classes. ALTs are not the English teachers. The English teachers are the Japanese teachers, but the ALTs assist. Our little Eikaiwa has 4 employees. There's, first of all, the boss, and he's an American married to a Japanese person. And this guy has been here for some 20 years. He started this little Eikaiwa from scratch, and he is experienced, and he is a great teacher. He is great with those kids and with the adults. We have a part-time staff member, Japanese, who assists the boss with his emails and phone calls and helps us foreigners as needed, like if we need to do, contracts for internet or for apartments or whatever, and she's spectacular. We have a new teacher who just joined us last month, and she has a lot of experience teaching adult classes from other Eikaiwa gigs, and she's also worked in the JET program as an ALT in the past. Right now, she's focusing on all of our adult classes, and will probably be taking some of the other classes as time goes on. I've been here for some 6 months, and I have taught in every class, I believe, except for one adult class, if I'm not mistaken, so I've done everything. At an Inky Dinky Eikaiwa like mine, there are actually several aspects to the job. It's not just one thing that you do. It has a lot of variety. Age. The ages of our students range from 4-year-olds to 80-year-olds. And I've taught people from all those ages. And then there's the locations and the aspect of the classes. First of all, there are the Eikaiwa classes. The Eikaiwa classes themselves, I guess I should say. We have some, 60, 70 students or something like that, ranging in ages from 6 to 80 or so, that take classes at the Eikaiwa itself. Now I say at the Eikaiwa itself, but actually about half those classes are taught at community centers in this town and in another town down the road, which is all part of the same city. Elementary kids get 50-minute classes, junior high school and high school classes are 60 minutes, and adult classes are 90 minutes. Okay, so that's the Eikaiwa classes themselves. And then we have what we call Kindy classes. We teach 4 and 5-year-olds at some, maybe about 4 or 5 Kindys, as we call them in our area. Kindys are different than American kindergartens because they're not part of the elementary school. And they have usually 3, 4, and 5-year-olds, or there are some that actually have smaller kids than that, and there's like 2 different kinds of kindergartens, and I don't want to get into that right now, but they are separate from elementary school, so they're a little bit different. And at the Kindys, we teach either 2 30-minute classes or 1 60-minute class, depending on the needs of the school, the ages of the kids. So at all of them, we teach 4 and 5-year-olds. And I just have to say, these classes are a blast. They are a lot of fun to teach. Business classes. Right now we have classes at 2 locations of the TDK company. TDK is a company that was started in this area. You might have actually heard of it, especially if, depending on how old you are, and if you went and bought blank CDs or blank DVDs or cassette tapes and the brand name was TDK.
It's that TDK. It was started in this area. Those classes are 90 minutes long, and right now we're teaching 2 or 3 times a week at those 2 locations. Now you may have 10 people on the student list for those classes, but typically 2 or maybe 3 faithfuls show up each week. People at these companies are busy. They have even meetings in the evenings. At times even the dedicated ones aren't able to make it. One time one of my students showed up for just the last 20 minutes of class and no one else showed up. A couple of times no one has shown up. And so it's a little tricky teaching those classes because you might have different students every week. You may have someone who hasn't been there for 4 or 5 weeks or something. And then you have the dedicated ones who come every week mixed in there. So it's a little tricky, but those classes are a lot of fun too. And so that was the Eikaiwa classes, the Kindys, and the company classes. And then the last part, at least at our Eikaiwa, is ALT work. We actually go into the elementary schools in this area, 2 different elementary schools in this area. In my next video, I'll talk more about the ALT job. It's pretty interesting in the elementary schools, and I want to tell you some things about it. It's kind of cool. Now, as I mentioned before, we go to the English classes, and usually we're the pronunciation experts, maybe the grammar experts, the spelling experts, where we just kind of support the classroom teachers. The classroom teachers have been tasked with being in charge of their own English classes, no matter how good their English is. And you can kind of understand that because those people are going to be there for their whole career, where the ALTs come in and out. Like maybe you're there for a few months or for a couple of years or something, and then you leave, and then the school has to continue with their English program. Classroom teachers have to be the ones responsible for the classes, and they are. Now, being an ALT is not a tough gig. It's actually pretty fun on most days. Sometimes it's kind of boring because the teachers don't get you involved very much. They kind of take over and it's just not that exciting. But other times it's a lot of fun. And it's easy because you don't need a lot of preparation. Yesterday, it turns out we had this whopping game of Simon Says. They haven't had Simon Says before. That was with the 5th graders, and that was a lot of fun. The 3rd 5th grade class that I had yesterday, I had to be the main teacher because the classroom teacher wasn't available, so I was like the sub for the English class. That was my first time to do that for 5th grade classes. Our Eikaiwa provides ALTs usually once a week for 5th and 6th grade classes, and a couple times a month for 3rd and 4th grade classes. And at one of the elementary schools, it's a little country elementary school that has just 1 class per grade, we provide an ALT to assist also in 1st and 2nd grade classes every once in a while. 5th and 6th grade are every week, and then 3rd, 4th, and 1st and 2nd at the other school are every once in a while. And I'll tell you more about it in another video and what Japanese schools are like. It's interesting. Language. Now you might be wondering, what about Japanese? Do you need Japanese? Well, I'd say it's helpful. It's definitely helpful. But what my boss told me recently, that what he's done in the past with his new teachers that come, is that he will send a volunteer with them who helps with the language. He also told me that he usually takes a couple of years before he gets them involved a lot in elementary classes in particular. Now, I happen to be a Japanese speaker, so I've been given a full load since the beginning because I can speak Japanese to those kids. Now, I was counting the other day just how many kids I have encountered during my classes at Kindy's and elementary schools and at our Eikaiwa classes, and it's like some 450 kids. So if you think about it, I'm in the classroom with every single 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th grade student in this town. But how I become kind of like this minor celebrity is that I see these kids everywhere. 450 kids, like every single 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th grade kid, and a bunch of the little 4 and 5 year olds. The other day I ran into one of the little kids from the Kindys, and he recognized me. I kind of recognized him. There's a lot of them out there, But I recognized this little guy, and he was like, how do you say this in English? And how do you say this in English? How do you say poop in English? And, things like that. So anyway, I considered it a lot of fun. So this is what the job looks like in a nutshell. It has quite the variety of students, quite the variety of locations. It's a kind of job where you're never bored, except for those few times when some of the teachers don't let you be involved in the elementary classes. The work isn't extremely hard, but it is definitely challenging in other ways. I'll have another video that talks about whether I think this job is fun, or what aspects of it are a lot of fun and what aspects of it are maybe not so fun.
Let me know in the comments below if you would prefer for me to talk about the salary for this job and living on that salary, or my hints about becoming proficient in Japanese. I do hope this video has been somewhat informative for you, and if you're looking for a job teaching English in Japan, I pray you find the perfect job for you. See you later.